eating trash for their lunches. Cause in life you gotta roll with the punches. Whoa, started Midwest, now we Cali boy. Always getting to it, yeah, we making noise. Started from the bottom, you already know. Gotta move fast to the cash, that's the way it go.
What's going on, guys? Here with Lynn and our first guest on our Garbage Eaters show. It's IFBB Pro, two-time Mr. Olympia, Patrick Fulgham. Got the name right?
Yes.
All right, cool. Welcome aboard, man. We're really glad to have you here.
So episode 1, we're just gonna get right into it and let Patrick talk more about himself and just give us the details, and then tell us about how he eats garbage and
Who is Patrick? Show where are you from first off?
All right, so born in Tallahassee, Florida.
Okay.
Grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia, back on the East Coast. Raised by a military family. My dad was actually drafted in the Navy. Spent 30 years, invested that much time in the Navy. He loved it, and retired a multitude of years ago, yet still works for the Navy. So my mom's been retired as well. She wants him to resign. Trying to get them to move to San Diego, America's finest city. Ultimately, after college, drove 40 and a half hours across the country by myself with no job, and told my parents I was gonna make it. I'd never been to California before in my life. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna set up some phone interviews, drive across the country, get a job before I get there. And that's exactly what I did,
Wow.
And here I am today, 2018.
That's amazing.
February.
What year was that when you came out?
November 26, 2008. I got here the 29th.
Right on.
Yeah.
So how old were you when that happened? That's crazy.
Yeah. Not to reveal my age.
I don't want to.
10th anniversary
How many years younger
I
are you?
know. Yeah. So that was quite some time. I'm 34 now.
Okay.
I've done a lot in that time frame. So I just, owe it all to God. Without him, I feel like, I wouldn't be here today.
Right.
So it's kind of first and foremost, but just excited for new opportunities to come. Just got engaged as well on Valentine's Day.
Congratulations.
So
yes, sir.
That's awesome.
That's kind of a new, step in the right direction in my life.
Future, yeah.
Unlike the previous me. we're growing up, so to speak. So at 34, still growing up.
Love it. And then for me, like when you moved, how did your parents take that?
My dad, not so great, especially being so militant. He, revolves around structure. So you don't have a job, you've never been to California, why would you go? My mom's like, go, God's got you. I was like, perfect, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And I literally made it one state over. I would think I was in Arkansas or Memphis, and it started downpouring.
Yeah.
And if you've been on Memphis, Tennessee's highways, there's no guardrails. So I was getting honked at. I was just afraid at that point, but kind of like my mom always says, do or do not. There is no try. The answer is always no if you don't ask. So, go for it. So that's exactly what I did. And as soon as I made it to the Grand Canyon, I knew I was like, I only have, a few hours left to California. As soon as I saw the Welcome to California sign, I just knew something in my body, my spirit. I was like, this is it. It's so beautiful. Palm trees.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this is great. So
I love it. Yeah.
Promised land.
Yeah.
When I moved, I started the drive with my dad in the passenger side, and I was feeling great for about 15 minutes. And as soon as I got 15 minutes away from home, it just hit me like a wall. Because like my family was really sad I was leaving, all my friends were, and I had to be the tough guy and be like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I left, just boom, it all hit me. I was like, Dad, I gotta pull over, can you drive? And I felt like I was gonna throw up for like an hour, and I literally tried to sleep the whole state of Iowa. So I woke up in Nebraska.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I can totally relate to that. And then you just feel like, holy crap, you made it once you're here.
Yeah, and that's the thing, just in life, I barely graduated high school, wound up, pursuing my education and got 2 master's degrees, so I'm just a firm believer in, whatever you ultimately truly believe in your heart that you can do, follow it, because at the end of the day, beginning, middle, and end of the day, it's really up to you, not a single person can make you feel how you don't want to feel. Not a single person can dictate your life. Not a single person can, predict your future. So like I said before, the answer is always no if you don't ask. So pursue your dreams, follow your heart, and take out what you. So.
Love it.
Yes,
I love
sir. Man, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Garbage Eaters, as you know, it's about just doing the things that you don't want to do, just grinding, eating the garbage, doing the things that people don't see every day, putting that work in to be successful. So just tell us about, your journey and the things you had to go through and just grind through.
All right. I think there's one in particular thing that starts like the foundation, and that's something my mom, always kind of instilled in us. My older brother and younger sister at a very early age. I look back and think about when my mom was in ICU, for instance, when my dad had a double hip replacement. So the physical ailments and then the health that was declining for my mom, in her lung transplant. And she was like, son, it's called the 3 C's, and that's Christ, confidence, crown. So obviously believe in, God, believe in yourself, take the confidence or courage with you, and then claim the victory is yours. So driving across the country 40 and a half hours by myself, of course I had a lot of discouragement. I'm going to a place I've never been. So there was and that's just fear, but I think about tangibles. If you have zero control of the things that, haunt you or that scare you, and you can't do anything about them physically or tangibly, then why worry? So I've become very worryless, if that's even a word, to the point where I'll just do anything now. So taking that confidence with me kind of has led me to competing. So what people just don't see is the late night workouts, the early morning fasted cardio, the discipline behind eating 6 meals a day, the temptations, smelling In-N-Out Burger, Phil's Barbecue, all these good, amazing places. And that sort of discipline has been structurally more than even 2 master's degrees. And it sounds crazy, but with a coach and nutritionist, nobody's there to feed you. Nobody's there to, make you work out. This is all you, and you have to exert the energy to actually get the job done. So you have to do the dirty work in order to attain the goal and the victory. So stepping on stage, for instance, people only see that moment when you're on stage, and they glorify that moment, but they don't see, nor do they realize sometimes what it takes, the steps it takes to actually go along through the journey to actually accomplish those goals as well.
Right.
Right on. That's a huge point right there. People just don't realize how much goes into everything and how much you actually have to prepare and adjust, and setbacks, things that happen to you that you have to readjust and go back through. Were there any setbacks that you had to consider as far as when you are competing or chasing your master's degree or
Chasing girls.
anything like that?
I think when I initially started competing, I was working on my second master's degree. So my first national show was in Chicago at Junior Nationals, and I had a paper due that Friday before the competition Saturday. And I was just like, you know what? I just think back at the discipline that I had to even make it to that specific level, and I was like, I can do this. So I think it just really starts with believing in yourself, but also having that support system behind you ultimately catapults you in the direction in which you're obviously wanting to attain. But yeah, as far as setbacks, I've lost 3 jobs when I got here. I had temporary positions. I was hired through a temp company, in which obviously some of these jobs were lasting 2 weeks. So I was like, here I am with no family on the West Coast. I'm working temporary positions. I got a new apartment, no job, really not a lot of money in the bank, not a lot of money in my pocket saved. It's fight or flight, and I think those who can withstand, the turmoil and the hardships, can get past and overcome anything. So.
Right on. So tell us more about how you started bodybuilding, your start in the beginning.
Okay. So April 13th, 2013 was my very first show against the current Mr. Olympia. Who actually, so, I didn't know who he was. I didn't care who anyone, the only person who really ultimately mattered on that day was me. Mm-hmm. And I've always seen myself, that way, Somebody's got to win. Why not me? Even playing the lottery, somebody's got to win. Why not me? You know, so
like that, yeah.
and I just ultimately think that, you know, it's all about believing in yourself. So I used to work for a company in higher education. So a university in Mission Valley, and you know, I was an assistant director where we used to enroll individuals or prospective students into undergraduate, graduate, and doctorate programs. This guy would walk by me every single day and just stare. And I'm like, I don't get it. Do you have a liking for me, or what, like, what's going on? Yeah, so finally, like after 2 weeks of this, and I'm like, what's up, man? What's going on? He's like, there's something about you. And I was like, interesting. Okay, you know, what is it? And he's like, there's something that's been on my heart. I was like, okay, so it's kind of freaking me out a little bit. So I'm like, talk to me, what's going on? He's like, guys telling me that you should be a bodybuilder. And I laughed in his face. I was like, bodybuilder? Like Arnold and like Phil Heath? I was like, that's grotesque. It's not something that I want to attain. I'm pretty. I want to be like pretty boy aesthetic like the rest of my life. Like I'm not trying to take drugs.
I swear I've never called myself pretty.
Aesthetics over everything.
Aesthetics over everything. So he gave me the number to my former coach, and in 6 weeks was my first show that day, April 13, 2013. He prepped me for 6 weeks, qualified for nationals. And every show that I did leading up to earning my pro card in 2014, I placed top 3 at every single show. Nationals, so it's top 2 to get earn your pro card. Every single national show, I placed 3rd, except for my very last show where before I turned pro, where I got 3rd callouts. So what that means is basically you're nowhere in the realm of winning, you know. So I was definitely crushed, which also leads to another setback. First person I called was my mom. You know, I was in Florida, my hometown where I was born, and I was like, this is the birth of my pro card, the birth of my life, you know, kind of bring this to life again. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do this anymore, you know. And I was like, if I don't win, I'm a sore loser. It is what it is. I don't care. I'm extremely competitive, and I'll always be that way. And I know that drive about me.
Yeah.
So fast forwarding to 2014, I do one show locally here in San Diego, and I win the overall. I was like, okay, we're back on track again. My very next show was USA's in Las Vegas. I get 4th place after flying my parents out because I was informed, hey, you're gonna go pro, like this is your time, all these things. And I told my parents once again, I don't wanna do this anymore. And there was one more shot in the year to go pro, and a place I've never competed, and judges I've never competed against, with 1,100 competitors, 52 guys in my height class at the time, and 1st place, pro card, just like that, you know. And I was moving to Washington, D.C. 2 weeks later, which was my birthday in September, and there was no better feeling because 2 weeks later after I moved to Washington, D.C., I flew out to Olympia to watch the guys on the stage, and I was like, I'm gonna be up there next year. Well, 2015 and 2016 ended up qualifying for Olympia, you know, which is the biggest show in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, I think that's what hard work, dedication, you know, and kind of something in which the two of you kind of strive for and believe in is the dirty work, you know, the work people don't see, the strive and grind, you know, the late nights, the early mornings, the work so many people aren't willing to even, you know, step forth and do at all. And that's the differentiation, that's the difference maker between winners and those who don't win. You know, and there's consistency that, you know, I think it works in conjunction with that as well.
Right. I had somebody reach out to me prior, or like right after the last video we did, and one of the things I wanted to talk about on the show was just starting something, honestly, like
Right.
just having enough faith or enough
For sure.
cojones, for lack of a better word,
yeah,
to just do it.
Absolutely.
So like, what got you over the hump to, okay, I'm gonna start bodybuilding, or okay, I'm gonna take the risk, I wanna get up on that Mr. Olympia stage?
Yeah, that all starts as you know, being bullied in school when I was younger. I was always the shortest guy, the non-most aesthetically pleasing physique, always the cute guy, never the, oh, he's handsome or good looking. So, you know, the worth that I didn't feel kind of led it literally flamed the fire and desire to be more, to be better, to outdo everyone who I've ever competed against, because now life became a competition.
Right.
It wasn't all about me. It was like, how can I better myself and be the best, and then eventually bring everybody else up with me. And that's what it was. I just feel when you truly have a desire to accomplish anything in life, you're gonna do it. You know, regardless of naysayers, regardless of obstacles, regardless of any of that. And that's just what it is. Just like Nike, their whole story is crazy. Just do it, and that's ultimately people leave out the just, and they eventually get around to doing it. And it's usually half-assed, for lack of better terms. If you're gonna do anything, you give it 100%. Like wholeheartedly in relationships and jobs. Even if you hate your job, it doesn't matter. You just show up. Show up and give it 100%. You'll always, get your return on your investment.
Right.
Definitely.
And then you mentioned like bringing people up with you. And are you competing now, or do you plan on competing in the future?
Yeah, maybe next year.
Okay.
Since my engagement, Valentine's Day, my focus is primarily on her. She's doing a show in April.
Nice.
So I've been there, done that. Biggest show in the world, Olympia, twice. My goals aren't really the same anymore. I feel, I can take my talents and take what I know within the competition realm and actually give that feedback to everyone else so they can follow my footsteps and do even better than I've ever done. So I think that's where my focus is. I know that's where my focus is right now. Maybe next year, but if I do decide to compete, I want to do it overseas as well.
Nice. Travel the world.
Yeah.
To
Get my
see
brand,
something
myself out there.
Love it.
Yes,
Love it.
yes,
Love it.
definitely. Tell us a little bit more about, I just want to know more about that first competition you said you competed against the current Mr. O. Like, how did that go? Was it like?
Initially going into the show, I didn't know who he was until he won. And then I started, kind of reevaluating my physique against everybody else on stage. And I'm like, okay, there were probably 15 guys in that class. I got third. Then there was another guy who never competed again. And then there was the current Mr. Olympia. And I'm like, how did he get to where he is? Because that's the path that I want to go, but I want to do better. So I feel like looking back now and knowing that now, who he is, when you compete with the best of the best, you become the best, you become better. So I always try to surround myself with, competition, someone who's smarter than me, someone who has done more than me, someone who has more money than me. Why not? I'm not here to live a, stagnant life, and I'm not here to be mediocre. I want to be the best, and I want to, be remembered as well. So that's just me. There's 7+ billion people in the world, and I tell people all the time, you could be that one person who could stand out and make a difference as well. So that's what I want to be, a garbage eating difference maker.
Hey, we did not pay him to say that. I love that.
So.
Right on.
Yeah. So I just asked about that, your first competition, because I remember my first classic physique show. I show up and Callum Von Monger's there. This big beast. If you guys don't know him, look up his YouTube. Shout out to Callum. Huge dude, and I'm just like super demoralized, like, wow, I have to go against him. He's in my height class, like, it's crazy. But like you said, it sets you up to like go against the best.
Right.
You reevaluate your physique, and I feel like it was better off for me to go against like someone who he's gonna be like the top of the top. I'm not gonna go against another physique like that at this level, and it would be like at a pro level.
Right.
So it was better for me to get that front facing,
exposure,
that exposure, and reevaluate where I am right there versus coming in,
Just beating everybody.
not having any like really standout competition like that.
Right.
So I appreciate it now, but at the time I was just like, wow,
Of course.
come on.
And you knew who he was.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I didn't know who Jeremy Buendia was at all. I was just like, oh, this is just a big dude. I'm like, are you sure he's in the right genre? Like the right class category? Like, this guy looks like a bodybuilder, man.
What's this guy doing here?
What, you look like me?
Yeah, exactly. You can do it too.
Thanks. Well, obviously, like you mentioned earlier, faith's important to you, and I follow your Instagram, and you guys should too. We'll attach to the video. You're always giving thanks to God, and I want to kind of hear more about that, how He's really affected your life. I know it's too much to cover right now, but you can kind of give me a glimpse into that if you feel comfortable doing that.
Absolutely. You know, I just believe, you know, and this is my belief, but along with, I'm sure, millions of other people, but He's gotten me through every single time where there's been stumbling blocks, where I've had $1 in my bank account before, and rent was due the very next day, you know, and I'm like, you go back to your gifts, you remember why you're here, your purpose, and once you really start evaluating your life and who you are to the world, I believe you bring the best out of you, you know, and He brings the best out of you as well, or the best out of me. And that's what it ultimately goes back to, is like He's my foundation, and without Him, I wouldn't be here. You know, I wouldn't accomplish. It's not me accomplishing the goals. It's not me. You know, my mom put something in perspective. She says, you know, when you go to sleep, you're on life support. You know, who do you think wakes you up in the morning? You know, and that right there resonated with me big time, especially with my mom being in ICU at the time, years ago, and going through a lung transplant, you know, kind of looking in her eyes and, you know, knowing she's going to make it when the doctors are telling her she has 0% chance. It's only God who does that. So I feel like my belief and my ambitious drive to the top, you know, He keeps pulling me forward, and He keeps allowing me to overcome and conquer, and, you know, my competition gets squashed like every single time. But without the confidence in yourself and the belief in yourself, you know, He gives you all the tools, but we have to take action and actually do the work.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I know your girl's hitting you up right now to go grocery shopping, so we should probably get out of here, respect her wishes. So obviously we're gonna try and get you back on the show. I think there's a lot more we can dive into and learn from you.
Definitely.
You agree? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like we're gonna probably sign off here. If you want to just sign off. Delete.
Okay.
I wanted you to talk instead of
I was
me.
going to.
I know.
I
I know. You just take 2 seconds too long. Okay, please. You do it.
That's something I was gonna say.
All right. God stuff. Go. God stuff. Go.
So a little bit before we sign off, a little bit earlier, you talked about your brand. You want to tell people about your brand and you know what it is. You know, they want to.
So I'll start with, you know, saying follow your heart. You know, the acronym is FLY with a heart. That means to fly. That means to take advantage of opportunities, to take off, to open your wings. To if you're at mom and dad's house still, you're over the age of 18 or 18. Even if not, if you feel the desire, the need to go do something in life, just like Nike, just do it. So fly comes from just that in itself. It's like, at what point in time in your life, you know, are you going to bring the best out of yourself, you know? And without flying, without soaring, without taking advantage of opportunities, or what I don't even call them risks anymore. They're opportunities, because there's always one outcome. It's either yes or no. You either did it or you didn't. You know, and if you failed, so to speak, you learn from it, you grow, you continue to fly, you know, and prosper. So at the end of the day, you know, follow your heart, take your brain with you.
Yeah.
So.
Love it.
There we go.
Patrick Fulgham, everybody. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We'd love to have you on here in the future. I'm sure there's a lot more we can dive into. I know you got to get going. Your girl's saying we got to get some groceries. So, but Patrick Fulgham, everybody, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
If you guys want to get some shirts like Lynn and I, we have the military green, and then we also have
the charcoal black.
Charcoal vintage black or charcoal black?
Vintage charcoal.
One of the two.
Same difference.
So we're taking pre-orders now. We sold out pretty quickly the first order. We'll be doing tanks in the future, girl t-shirts as well, so not just the unisex. So from what we've heard so far from the people that bought them, they're really soft, really comfy, and they don't shrink in the wash, which is great. So thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate it.